Okay, good morning. We go to the Chitas of today. We're holding on the portion of Noach. We're holding on the third portion. Today's Tuesday. We're holding in chapter 7, verse number 17. And the Mabel was 40 days on the earth. And the water increased. And it lifted up the Teva, lifted up this ark, and it rose above the earth. So Rashi says, Rashi said it was submerged in the water 11 cubits, like a loaded ship. So it was 11 cubits in the water. And Rashi will explain this later. You see below, Rashi will explain this later. And the following verses prove it, that it was 11 feet, 11 cubits, 11 amas, more than 11 feet. An amma could be 18 inches. Verse 18, Vayigra Mayim, and the water became powerful. Vayirbu Ma'oid, and it became increased, extremely increased a lot. Vatelach HaTeva Pnei Mayim, and the Teva moved upon the waters. Rashi said, Vayigma Ramayim Aleim, from themselves, they became larger and larger. Amayim, verse 19, Vamayim Gavru Ma'oid al Haaretz, and the water became extremely powerful upon the earth. And they covered all the lofty mountains that was under the heavens. Verse number 20. 15 cubits. So the title over here tells us a number. How many cubits it went over the water, over the mountain, It went 15 cubits, 15 amas. Again, it depends how much an amma is, between 12 inches and it could be 18 inches or 24 inches. Not clear exactly. It's a machlekes. So at least a minimum of 15 feet. But as I said, if it's 24 inches, it's much larger. Above all peaks of mountains, after the water were equal at the same level, the mountain as the mountain peaks. Verse 21. But you called basar and all the flesh perished that moved upon the earth. From amongst the fowl and amongst the cattle. And on all the beasts and all the creeping creatures that creep upon the earth. Adam and all mankind, everybody perished. Verse 22. Anything that had a breath of life in their nostrils. Anything that was in a dry land, mesu. The breath of the spirit of life. Rashi says this comes to exclude something. It comes to exclude the fish. The fish in the sea did not die. Verse 23. And flood blotted out all the beings that were upon the face of the earth. From the animal, from man to animal. Anything that was creeping, anything that was flying. They were totally blotted out from the earth. And the only thing that survived was Noach and what was with him in the ark. Go to the second Rashi, Noach, meaning only Noach. This is a simple meaning, but the Medrash says he was groaning and splitting blood because of the burden of caring for the cattle and the beasts. And some say that he delayed feeding the lion and it hit him. The lion hit him. And concerning him, it says, behold, a righteous man is required required for his sins of this world. Pays for his sins in this world. So Noach was having a rough time in the Teva. Didn't sleep, couldn't sleep because every animal had a different time of feeding. He had extremely difficult situation in this ark. It was not exactly the most happiest time for him. And the water prevailed over the earth for 150 days. So the water stayed on the earth for after 40 days and 40 nights. It was in the world for 150 days. All these numbers, Rashi will explain later, all these numbers and dates and times, figure out exactly how many months was a flood and how many months they were in the Teva, etc. Chapter 8, verse number 1. And then God remembered Noach. And all the animals, and all the cattle, that was with him in this ark. God put the spirit over the earth, and the water started to subside. For so 140 days, the waters didn't budge, and then they just started to bring down the waters. So Rashi says, Vayiskel, and this name represents divine standard of justice, which was converted to divine standard of mercy, the prayer of the righteous. But the wickedness of the wicked convert the divine standard of mercy to the divine standard of justice. As it says, and the Lord, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which is mercy, saw the evil of man was great. And the Lord, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei again, said, I'll blot out through that name is the divine standard of mercy. And the Eibishter changed it over into the concept of through the wickedness. The Eibishter takes his mercy and moves it over to the concept of justice. And Yiskel Akim, and God remembered. God suddenly changed from justice to mercy. What did you remember? Regarding the animals, the merit that they did not corrupt their ways. Right? We mentioned, Rashi said, the animals and Noach that came into the Teva were those that did not corrupt their ways. Not only Noach was a righteous man, but all the animals that came into the ark didn't either sin. And therefore, God remembered their merit. They did not also have a relationship in the ark. A spirit of fulfillment, consolation, anacha, and calmness passed before him. Ala aretz, over the earth, meaning concerning the earth. By Yaseku, the water subsides. Rash said when the king's fury subsides, Kesheich al Masa Melech, expression of calming of anger. There was 150 days, so to say, that God's anger was on the world. Again, there's many midrashim, beautiful midrashim on this. Why 150 days? And what was happening in the world? The world was like hanging in. It's very interesting for 150 days in the world in general. Circa Mayim, verse number 2, and the springs of the deep were closed. And the windows of the heavens. And the rain from the heaven was withheld. Rashi says, when the water was open, when the Torah said in the beginning of the flood, it says, it's written all the springs, but here it's written because some of them still remain, and they were necessary for the world. So this is very interesting, Rashi, because if you ever visit the hot springs, Rashi says the hot springs of the world, hot spring of Tveria, for example, Chavi Tveria, is that waters that are still open that come from the essence of the ground. So now we know that the waters that came out of the ground that were boiling water, boiling and were extremely full of minerals and sulfides, was extremely very rough water that went through. That was the time of the ark. Was extremely time of the floods. Extremely rough waters. So can you imagine the whole world in opened up from the waters of the hot springs of the world, and boiling water was in the world. Question is, how did the fish? That's what it says. The whole measures to the upper waters were hot, the bottom waters were cold. Very interesting. As heat rises. Vayikala, so it was held. It was held. You will not withhold tichla. Tichla, the Rashi is proving that the word tichla means to withhold. Verse number 3. The waters receded of the earth more and more. And the waters diminished at the end of 150 days. So Rashi says they commenced to diminish, and that was the 1st of Sivan, first day of the month of Sivan. How so? On the 27th of Kislev, the rain stopped. That was the end of the 40 days. Leaving 3 days in Kislev and 29 days in Tavis, making it a total of 39 days. They have 39 days from the end of the rain till the month of Tavis, end of the month of Tavis, Kislev and Tavis. And then you have Shvat, Adar, Nisan, and Iyar, a total of 118 days. So we take to count 118 plus the day, 27th day of Kislev till the end of Tavis, you're going to come to a ground total of 150 days. So you have from when the water stopped, 40 days ended on the 28th day, 27th day of Kislev. Right? We mentioned that before. That was the 40 days. And now the 28th, now you start counting for the 28th day of Kislev, 150 days for the 28th day of Kislev is going to be, the Chodesh Sivan is going to be the end of the 150 days. So now we have to remember, because the Rashi is going to come later and complete the whole calculation when the actually everything ultimately happened. So the flood started Yuzayim B'Cheshvan, but it started in a day. And we start counting from the 18th day of Cheshvan. It rained for 40 days. That ends off on the 27th day of Kislev. You start counting 150 days for the 28th day of Kislev. You're going to come 150 days later to the Chodesh Sivan. So now we're holding the Chodesh Sivan. The flood started on the 17th day of Cheshvan. And now we're holding the Chodesh Sivan. Now we come to the next verse. Batana Chateva B'Chodesh Hashvi. And the ark rested on the 7th month. What is the 7th month? On the 17th day of that month, Arot, it rested on the Mount Arot. On the 7th month. Now, if you're counting for Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tavis, Shvat, Adar, Nisan. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We got to go over here. No. So Rashi, go to Rashi. So the 7th month is not it's from Kislev. So you have Kislev, Tavis, Shvat, Adar, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan. The 7th month, Rashi says over here in the pasuk means the 7th month, not in the year, but the 7th month of Kislev. And Ushvi Kislev. So the on the 17th, so the water stopped on the 150th day, which was a Chodesh Nisan, Sivan. And 17 days later, it rested on Hararot. It rested on the mountain of Arot. It took 17 days for the bottom of the boat to hit the mountain. Now that's we're going to come back to the Rashi before. How much was it in the how much of the boat was in the water? And Torah says it was 11 amas in the water. So if it was 11 amas in the water, so now the question is, how much did it go down every day? That ultimately the bottom of this boat should hit the mountain of Mount Ararat. So we now, Rashi says, we know that the boat, the water started to recede from Rosh Chodesh Sivan until from then on it started to recede. 17 days later, on the 17th day of Sivan, it hit the mountain. What does it all come to teach us? So Rashi, from here we learn that the ark was submerged in the water 11 cubits. For it says in verse 5, next verse, in the 10th of the month and the 1st of the month, the mountain peaks appeared. This is the month of Av, which is the 10th month counting from Mar Cheshvan, when the rain fell. And they were 15 cubits above the mountain, right? It said there were 15 cubits above the mountain. That's what it says in the Torah. It was 15 cubits above the mountain. They diminished from the 1st of Sivan until the 1st of Av, 15 cubits in 60 days. That means, according to the Torah, they diminished from Rosh Chodesh Sivan till the 1st of Av, from Sivan to Tammuz, Tammuz to Av, that's 60 days. It diminished 15 cubits. That means that it diminished a cubit in 4 days. 1 cubit for 4 days. The result is that on the 16th day of Sivan, they had diminished 4 cubits. According to this calculation, on the 16th day of Sivan, they diminished 4 cubits. And that's why the boat was 11 cubits, and it diminished 4 cubits to hit the top of the mountain. That's the whole calculation. And that's why they tell you the question, why they tell us this? That's a separate issue. But that's the calculation that Rashi says. That's how I figured everything out. The water stopped on the Chodesh Sivan. 17th day, then the 7th day of Sivan, it hit the mountain. Why? Because it took 4 cubits. It took a cubit per 4 days per 1 cubit. And that's how we figured out there's 11 cubits in the water. The result is on the 6th day of Sivan, it diminished only 4 cubits. And the ark to rest on the next day. Because on the next day, on the 8th and the 17th day of the month, it rests on the mountain. So it's 1 cubit for 4 days. That is 4, 8, 16 is 4 cubits. So it went down 4 cubits by the 16th day of the month. And it was 11 cubits in the water. So on the 6th and the 7th and the 17th day, it rested on the mountain because it was the top of the mountain. It was 15 cubits above that mountain. And that's the calculation. I hope you understand what I just said. And that was the calculation how it hit the mountain. So the result is, on the 16th of Sivan, it had diminished 4 cubits, and the ark came to rest the next day. You learn from here that it was submerged 11 cubits in the water. The teva itself was 11 cubits in the water above the mountain peaks. And that's what happened. So again, on the 7th, on the first day of Sivan, the water, the God remembered, and he started to make the water go down. It took, by the 16th day of Sivan, the water was already 4 cubits down. The water was above Mount Ararat, 15 cubits. On the 16th, it was already 4 cubits down, and the ark was 11 cubits in the water. So that's why on the 17th day of the month of Sivan, on the 17th day, the bottom of the boat hit the top of the mountain. Not hit, it rested on the top of the mountain. Now, the water kept on going down, right? 1 cubit for 4 days. The Then the water kept on going down till the 10th month, which is Av. And then on the 10th month, on the first of the month, the mountain peaks appeared. Because don't forget, the boat was 11 feet into the water. So now it took it then to go down. Doesn't hit the top of the mountain. You couldn't see the mountain still on the 17th day of Sivan, because the boat was 11 amas into the 11 amas into the water. So now it took another till the month of Sivan to see the top of the mountain. Month of Av to see the top of the mountain. So Rashi, this refers to the month of Av, which is the 10th month of which is the 10th from the month of the starting of the flood. So we have the 10th month already. They're still in the ark, 10 months. This is also important calculation because it's going to figure out exactly when he went out of the teva. So right now we're holding 10 months that he's in that from the beginning of the flood, he's in this teva for 10 months, and ended up seeing the top of the mountain after 10 months from the beginning of this whole story. Now, if you say, okay, so Rashi goes to a whole question answer. That Rashi wants to prove that his calculation over here does not mean 10 months from the beginning of the year. It means 10 months from the month of Teshuvah. Now, if you say it refers to Elul, which is the 10th month from Kislev, then when the rain stopped, just as you say in the 7th month refers to Sivan, which is the 7th month after the season of the rain, I will tell you that it's impossible to say this. You must admit that the 7th month can be counted only for the time of the rain stopped, because there they did not end the 40 days of the rains and 150 days when the water gained strength until the 1st of Sivan. And if you say it refers to the 7th month for the beginning of the rain, it would not come out on Sivan. 10th month, so that's just in essence, to understand these verses. So in essence, the 7th month is from when the rain stopped. The 10th month is from the rain beginning. That's just proving you must say that even though for the simple verses, why would you say the 7th month is when the rain stopped and the 10th month's rain began? That says you must say that because it would not make sense in the simple meaning of the psukim how this calculation would come out if you don't say it the way I'm saying it. So if you say it refers to the 7th month from the beginning of the rain, it would not come out in Sivan. 10th month can be counted only for the time the rain commenced to fall, where it says he counted for the time when the rain stopped, which is El. It would not understood in verse 13 that for the first month and the first day of the month, the waters dried up upon the earth. But at the end of 40 days, when the mountain peaks appeared, he sent a raven and waited 21 days with sending the dove, totaling 60 days. From the time the mountain peaks appeared until the surface of the earth dried. And if you say that it appeared in Elul, it would then mean that it dried in Mar Cheshvan. Scripture, however, calls it the first month, and that can only refer to Tishrei, which is the first month from the creation of the world, according to Rabbi Yeshua. It's the month of this. So again, you have to read this a couple of times, but Rashi is basically proving that he's trying to, in essence, prove that we must say that my calculation over here for this, calling what is called the 7th month and what's called the 10th month must be the 7th month is from the end of 40 days. The 10th month is from the beginning of when it rained, because the way the verses must be understood. He indicates maybe as we'll go on, it'll come more clear because Rashi brought down a bunch of other dates. He indicates so now we have to add another 40 days. And Noach opened up the window to the teva that he made in his ark. So the Ashim Miketah 40 days since the mountain peaks were seen, since the Chodesh Av. So now we're holding in 40 days after the Chodesh Av, we're holding in the month of Elul, the 10th day of the month of Elul. As Chalein HaTeva, for the again for the light. It was not the opening of the ark, which is made going in and out. It was the window that was on top. He sent out the raven. And he went out back and forth until the waters dried up. So Rashi says, what did the raven do? It was going and circling around the ark. And he never went out to do his job. Because the raven was afraid that Noach wanted to take his kala, he wanted to take his bride. It's brought on the Gemara. Ad Yofshamayim. This is the simple explanation, the apparent meaning. But the Medrash says that the raven was destined for another errand during the lack of rain in the time of Elijah. As it says, the raven brought bread and meat. So we're there. So that's what it means. That he kept on waiting for its real mission. The raven was waiting for its real mission, which would happen later on in the story of Elijah the prophet when he was missing water in the desert. Verse number 8. And he sent the dove. To see if the water abated from the surface of the earth. Rashi says he sent out the dove 7 days later. It's written, and he waited again another 7 days. From this general statement, we learn the first time he waited 7 days. By Yishlach, this is an expression of sending on a mission. It's not expressed sending on a mission, but an expression of sending away. He sent it forth to go on its way. And thereby he would see whether the waters have abated. But if it would find a resting place, it would not return to him. But the dove did not find a resting place. And he came back to him. Because the water was on the face of the earth. He sent out his hand. And he took it. And he brought it back to the table. He waited another 7 days. Yosef Sheilachas a Yenim and Ateva, and he sent the Yein again. And the dove returned to him in the evening. And he had an olive leaf in its mouth. And Noach knew that the water abated from the face of it. First Rashi is Rambam's going to the next Tarif Chotav. It was plucked in his mouth. The Medrash explains it was Tarif, expression of food. Interpretation of a fear, expression of speech. The dove said, "Let my food be as bitter as an olive in the hands of the Holy One, blessed be He, and not as sweet as honey in the hands of flesh and blood." In essence, the dove told him, "It's better that I have an olive, branch of an olive that's bitter on this world, than to be in an ark that I need to come on to you for my needs." He waited another 7 days. He sent the dove out again. And never came back to him. Never came back to the ark. This is the meaning. Okay. Graham was continue. Verse number 3. Came to pass 600 years, and the first year 601 years. The first month, 601 years in the first month. The waters dried out on the earth. So as Rashi says over here, it means either Tishrei or Nisan. We're going with like a Lablezer, Tishrei. So in Tishrei, the earth dried up. And Noach took off the cover of the ark. That's like the cover, the roof of the ark. And he behold, he saw the surface of the ground. So Rashi again, Berisha in the first month is Labelezer is Tishrei, the Yeshua is Nisan. But in the old interpretation of Rashi, we've gone according to Labelezer that it was in Tishrei. So right now we're holding almost a year. We're holding 11 months since they went into the ark. Harvu, it became like dry clay. From the upper surface formed the crust. Verse number 14. But on the second month, so that's the month of Cheshvan, we're back to a complete year. Not only a complete year, on the 27th day of the month. Now we're 10 days after, we're a year and 10 days. We're in the month of Cheshvan, a year later, 10 days. The flood started on the 17th day of Cheshvan. We are now holding a year later on the 27th day of Cheshvan. Yav Shahar, as the earth was dry. So that's what Rashi says. And the rain started to fall in the second month, on the 7th day of the month. These are the 11 days in which the solar year exceeds the lunar year. The judgment of the generation of flood was for a whole. That's why the whole calculation is just to explain. Rashi says ultimately why it was 10 days longer than exactly to a year, 365 days. If we go to the solar, we go to the moon. I mean, we go to the sun, which is 11 days longer than the moon. And there, how we get it to be exactly, to be a year and 11 days. It became dry as it should be. Okay, that completes the Chumash, the long Chumash today. Let's go to the Tanya of the day. We are still in the middle of the Rebbe, Alter Rebbe's 25th letter in Tanya. And the Alter Rebbe continues. Hine is known, Nefesh Adam, the soul of man, Yedua Lakel. It's known to everybody. Shiklulo miyutzvis. Based on that result, that the soul of man is comprised of 10 manifestations. Chachma, Vina, Das, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, etc. Right? They have every soul comprised of 10 attributes. Though these corresponding faculties of the soul all derive from the breath of God's mouth, as it's written, he blew within his nostril a soul of life. So the term veyipach, and he blew, indicates that the divine soul derives from the innermost spirit of the vitality of its creator. We learned that in the beginning of Tanya. The Zohar says, man denafach, whoever blows miteiche, he blows from his essence. So it comes from the essence of God. So in essence, we're saying that the neshama is a chelik alakama mal mamish. Nevertheless, each of these 10 faculties of the soul is particularly connected to one of the 10 supernal spheres as follows. That are prat, more specifically, Chabad in one's soul. One's intellect faculty of Chachma, Bin, and Das are analogous to the divine intellect emanating from Chabad of the 10 Sfirot. Hamachunim b'shem Abba v'Ima, which in Kabbalah they're called father and mother. Like the Zohar, the spirit of Chachma of the world of Atzilus is turned Abba, father. And the spirit of the attribute of Bina in the world of emanation is called mother. While the spirit of Das is a combination of the two. as explained in the teachings of Chassidus, right? So you have Abba v'Ima, the father and mother, and v'Adam Yadas Chava. The unity of the father and mother is das, is knowledge. What brings about, what happens to the unity of the father and mother? You have children. What are the children? What are the spiritual children of wisdom and understanding? And their unity that brings them together is Ava and Yida. They have two children. They have two children. We can explain that also, the concept of masculine and feminine. They have two children. They have a masculine, they have a son and daughter. Do the mitzvah. You have to have two children, a boy and a girl, which is Ava and Yida, which is symbolic to these two entities, two children. In the motive attribute of one's soul, the love and fear of God, and so on, are analogous to the 6 midas, divine and motive attributes that come from Chochmah and Bina. They all create 6 emotions. The two Avinida is the beginning of all those 6 emotions. In the 10th spirits, where they're collectively known in Kabbalah, which are called Zeir Ampin, minor visages, Zeir, small faces. Small faces is the essence, is the 6 emotion. In essence, they're called small faces because they reflect the wisdom, the father and mother. You have an expression in the Gemara, another expression is Barak Kala Davur. A child is the foot of his father. They express, in essence, what Chochmah and Bina gives them. So they are small visages, they're small faces. And the faculty of speech in his soul, Dugmila Dibereli. They are analogous to the supernal speech. Now, the Alter Rebbe, in essence, everything that's above is connected below. Everything below is connected above. That's why the Meditra Magid said, the Alter Rebbe said, and for my own flesh I see God. Because I reflect. We are in the image of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's how Chassidus explains that verse. We are all the image of God. We reflect what happens above. So whatever happens in the upper worlds, reflected in the lower worlds. It goes both ways. It goes from bottom to top to bottom, and it goes from bottom to top. It goes both ways. We learned to Chassidus, we reverberate what happens above. We actually, this world shoots back, has the back, the return comes from this world. So we actually reflect godliness more than any other things in any place else. So that's why this world reflects the world of the ultimate world, the world of Atzilus. We are a reflection. We learned that in many other different places of Atzilus. Like the Eretz Soul is Malchus Atzilus. It reflects the kingship of the world of emanation. So it's Pashit, we're a reflection of what's happening above. And that's why Dumala Dibra, we are compared to, our speech is like the speech of above. Just like we explained that God created the world through speech. What is the meaning in Kabbalah? God created the world through speech, that God created the world through Malchus of the world of emanation, to the kingship of the world of emanation, which is speech. So too, when we speak, is like the Malchus, it's like Malchus of the world of Atzilus. I understand why it says, whatever you say, you shall keep. You shall do whatever you say. Or you should not abuse your speech. I shouldn't make my speech choil. I shouldn't make my speech profane. Because I'm profaning Malchus Atzilus. My speech reflects Malchus of the world of Atzilus. That's why you have to be careful what you say. And that's why you should not speak negativity. And that's why you should not surely speak something bad. And the faculty of speech in one's soul, Dugma is analogous to supernal speech, which is known as spheres of Malchus of the Shechina. My speech is like the Shechina. My speech. So it says by Moshe Rabbeinu, it says Shechina edaberes b'terech giroime. The Shechina spoke from his throat because he taka was Ishalakim, and he was totally nullified to God, and therefore his speech was God. So to every prophet. Now you understand that when every one of us, speak words of Torah, what are we accomplishing? The Gemara says like the Abish speaks. It's actually one of the interpretations we learned this also. It says lamer, lamer. That the Gemara says what means lamer? To say. The Gemara says what it means, and God spoke all these things to say. To say what? He's speaking to all the Jews, for the 10 Commandments. The Gemara says when lamer means that God says when you say something, it's like I'm saying it. When you say words of Torah, I'm repeating it. Lamer, I'm repeating it. So why? Because when I say words of Torah, so especially words of Torah, my words is awakening up Dibra Elyon, the words of God. Hence, since a Jew's speech is analogous to supernal speech is a Shechina, when speaking words of Torah, one arouses supernal speech. The sphere of Malchus. We arouse, when we're learning here Torah, we arouse the sphere of Malchus of Atzilus, thereby unifying the Shechina, meaning linking it to the preceding stage of emanation. We connect the Shechina. We connect God through our speech, physical speech. Through my speech, to my learning Torah right now, I connect the Eibishter all the way down from up, bring him down, and I connect them all the way up. I bring down a unity in the presence of God. And that is why it's been established. And that's why it's so important. The halacha is that when it comes to davening, when it comes to a bracha, when it comes to grace after the meals, when it comes to learning words of Torah, you are not allowed to do it alone in your mind. You do not accomplish it with your thought. You need to say it with your mouth. It's not enough that I should think about the davening. I have to say the words of prayer. When I make a bracha, I need to say the words of the bracha. When I make Birchas Hamazon and grace after meals, I need to say it. When I learn Torah, I need to say it. I need to verbalize it. Because if I don't verbalize it, then I don't bring about this unity of the Dibur Lamaila, the speech above and the speech below. I only bring about this unity of bringing about God to speak also, and to bring the connection of God's speech and my speech, because they're both interconnected. The only reason why I can speak is because God spoke, and they're both interconnected, and it brings about a unity between God above and the way He comes below, a unity that cannot be accomplished if not I speak the words of Torah. That's the way it's done. And that's the completion of the Tanya today. And I'm trying to get out of this, but doesn't want to leave. Okay. My friends, today is Rosh Chodesh. It's the 30th day of the month and of Tishrei, Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan. The Tillim of today is chapter 145 till the end of the book, chapter 150. If you say those 6 chapters, you do the chitas of the day. And Amir Shem, tomorrow we'll meet again at 8:15 because I have with the learn longer davening. So it's Chodesh tomorrow. So we're going to meet again tomorrow at 8:15 instead of 8 o'clock to learn the chitas of the day. I wish you all a good Chodesh, a wonderful Chodesh, a happy Chodesh, a wonderful day. And Mitch, I'll see you all tomorrow at 8:50.